So thank you very much to be here, and thank you, of course, for the invitation. I just want to begin to tell about my French accent. And so, really sorry for it. The topic of the thematic for this day is the development of a model of implicit measure of personality. Model is an important word. Okay. This is a thesis under the guidance of the Professor Evan Loiret and the associate professor in psychology, Ms. Katia Theriault. She and him are here, and thanks to her and to him. The implicit measurement of personality. This is a predictive tool in the job performance measurement. For a better predictive tool in the job performance measurement, the subtitle gives us good information for the rest of the presentation. So personality is a field that is widely investigated in recruitment and competitive examination. However, self-report personality inventories pose a number of problems, particularly because this is a high-stakes situation. The bias associated with this type of test are well known: social desirability, acquiescence bias, poor self-knowledge, difficulty in understanding items, and there is some other bias who can disturb the self-report inventories. An interesting avenue lays in implicit measures of personality. An implicit measure is an evaluation process in which the measurement processes are not, or very little, identifiable by the people being evaluated. This makes it difficult or impossible for them to implement effective strategies to falsify the answers. There are several such models. The most popular are the projective method, the implicit association test, and the situational judgment test. Depending on the type of response proposed, ipsative or quasi-ipsative response, and by combining several different investigative methods, it's possible to increase the reliability of the measure and the predictability for the job performance. So the objective of the thesis is to establish a model of indirect or implicit measure of the personality. So the hypotheses are: indirect measures offer a better predictive validity concerning the professional performance, and the multiplicity of measures increase the incremental validity. So just now we meet some problems. Totality indirect measure seems just illusory. Items comprehension is highly subjective. And it's not the personality that we measured, but the construct of the personality. This is not the same thing. So we use 4 ways to build this study. The first, the most popular, is to investigate the personality with the 5-factor model. Okay, you know, I think, in details, yes, with the 5 big traits, and for each traits, the 6 facets. We have to build a new inventory model about this theory, and we have tested it last week. This is a very fresh database. The second tool we used is the Cloninger model, who describe a model of a psychobiological model and structure of the personality. She's based on neuropharmacological studies of humans and animals. And we can, to understand the model, cut him in two different axes. The first name is the temperament. This is genetical origin structure. At first, the model was born in the 90s, and he got just three axes: harm avoidance, novelty seeking, and reward dependence. After this time, a fourth traits operates, persistence, and after this first moment, three other characters will be joined, and these characters was coming from the environmental influence: directionless, cooperativeness, and transcendence. So this model is very popular in the United States, and it is used often in the clinical evaluation for the trouble and the disease of personality. So first, little digression. We have to ask us what's the link between the personality measurement and the job performance. You can see on the screen 5 meta-analyses. So the results are not so wonderful. You can just see that the conscientiousness are the common points, with a correlation around that 20. This is interesting, but that 20 is not enough to create a strong link between the job performance and the personality. So we have to look around. 4 ways. So the first is the 5-factor model, the second, the Cloninger model, the third is to an old concept from Whitkin, the field dependence and independence. So a review of literature indicates that people with field dependent or field independent cognitive styles are different in their interpersonal behavior in ways predicted by the theory of psychological differentiation. So you can take a link between a cognitive investigation and a personal behavior. So this is interesting. And what about the link between the job performance and the cognitive abilities? A very recent meta-analysis last year showed us that the correlation between the cognitive abilities and the job performance can be that 49. This is better like the personality. It's not perfect, but it's better. The last tool we use is the situational judgment test. These tests are a measure that judgment about different ways of responding to situation have been shown to be an excellent predictor of job performance, according to McDaniels in 2007. The link between the two axes are dot 30 around. And what is a situational judgment test? So I propose you an example. You are a team leader in a busy office environment. One of your team members, named Sarah, has been consistently arriving late for work over the past week, which is affecting the team's productivity and morale. Sarah is typically a good worker, and you value her contributions. How would you handle this situation? This is a complex question with many dimensions, and the possibility to answer are equivalent. So this is why we call the situation judgment test as indirect measurement. Because if you choose the A, the B, the C, or the D, this is not evident to look what is the better response about the social desirability, for example. So, what is the target of this presentation? The first target is the incremental validity. About the projective method, Mihura in 2012, in a meta-analysis, conclude that the projective method, like the Rorschach-in-block test, yes, thank you, like the Rorschach-in-block test, can be a good predictor in the job performance when this method are completed by other investigation. Greenwald, the father of the implicit association test, conclude the same thing. The EATs are better when they are passed with a classical method of the personality investigation. And so McDaniels in 2007 explained that the situation judgment test can increase the explicable variance with 6 or 7%. So this is the conclusion. There's diverse findings argue in favor of a multiplicity of measures to increase the reliability of a common measure. Many thanks for your attention.
Maybe one comment. Thank you, Richard. Maybe one thing I missed a little bit in your overview is the construct emotional intelligence. That's just the bridge between personality and cognitive factors. So I would advise you to have a good look at somebody for 2 decades. That's emotional intelligence is telling sometimes more because it has both worlds a little bit in. So it's very close to personality, and it's also the cognitive thing. So have a look also at emotional intelligence. It would be very interesting. And maybe just one other information about the Big Five, for example. We did a lot of research, and there's always combinations of the five. For example, I always say to the students too, do you know who is successful student in a Flemish university? That's the introvert, conscientious, neurotic student. These are the ones who make it. I say, what kind of psychologist are we doing? You're going to be for neurotic, you need to be a little bit afraid. Introvert, don't look at the girls and the boys, just stay. And consciousness is the number one. Just being busy with them. So a Big Five, yes, with combinations. And the other thing is EQ. It's very important for you. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it reminded me a study from Kerman at Egelstadt since 20 years, I think. The link between the G factor of the cognitive abilities and the openness. The correlation is that 30. And Furnam, in another study, conclude the same thing. So this is the reason why we just ask the question, what's the link between intelligence and the personality?
Okay.
Another question?
Thank you very much. The next presenter will be Magdalena Zadworna with a presentation about measuring successful and healthy aging aspects, new tool for Polish older adults. This will be a presentation given online. We have Magdalena with us. Hi, hello. Can you hear us?
Hi, do you hear me? Do you see my screen? Wait a second.
Screen not, but we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, now you should see my screen also.
It's black.
Okay, I see that it is loading, so I hope in a minute it will be.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
All right. All right. Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Magdalena Zadworna. I'm from Poland, from University of Łódź, Institute of Psychology. And my scientific interest focuses on healthy and successful aging. And I'm the author and co-author of Polish adaptations of few measurement tools on these aspects. So today I would like to say a few words about this. First of all, a small introduction. I should say that we all see a global rise in both the overall number and proportion of older adults, individuals in general populations in many countries and also in Poland. 2 years ago, the mean percentage of people aged 60 plus, 60 and more, in the general population of my country was 25.7%, and the prognosis are that it will be 40% in 2050. So it is really a huge increase in the number of older adults. And with this increase, there is a growing need for research into the identification of successful and healthy aging and quality of life in late adulthood. So just to define the term successful and healthy aging, as Rowe and Kahn say that this is high physical and psychological and also social functioning in old age without major diseases, but there also exist several similar terms such as healthy aging, active aging, productive or optimal, and aging well. And all these terms have somehow similar aspects. My favorite term is healthy aging, introduced by World Health Organization, because in this aspect we say that this is more than just absence of disease. It's the process of developing and maintaining the functional ability that enables well-being in all age. And here you can see the associations between those different terms. Successful aging has subjective and objective indicators, and the terms healthy, active, or productive aging are connected with health, physical, cognitive, psychological functions, actively engagement in life, and also similarly, we can say that this is just aging well. Well, we of course attempt to measure this healthy and successful aging aspects, and in my opinion, the key elements of this area is health status and functional ability, and adaptation to old age with developmental task attainment and attitudes to own aging, and also healthy, active lifestyle, that all these aspects seem to cover the field of healthy and successful functioning in old age. So I would like to describe today three measures, Polish language measures for people 60 plus. The two of these are authored by me, Developmental Task Attainment, Health-Related Behavior Questionnaire. I developed the measures in Polish language for Polish older adults, but the third one, Attitudes to Aging Questionnaire, is Polish adaptation of originally English language tool. So why we should consider developmental stage phases in measurement of adults during adulthood? Well, I think that each stage with its own specific characteristics, it seems reasonable to examine the developmental context when analyzing the lifestyle of people at a given stage. And only by considering this specific development challenges, we can get a complete picture of psychosocial functioning of people at different stages of adulthood. And many studies also indicate that living in accordance with challenges posed by age seems to be of particular value in late life periods. So this late life period starts at 60 or 65 years of age, and during this time, individual faces very important challenges like adapting to a decline in physical strength, adapting to retirement and reduced income, coming to terms with the death of a spouse and their own perspective of death, maintaining social relations with people in their age, accepting and adapting to changing in social roles, and establishing good physical living arrangements. So I would like to introduce developmental task attainment questionnaire that I have designed and developed for people, retired people, age 60 and more. And this is Polish language tool that measured the general level of developmental task attainment as defined by Robert Heavyhurst and Erik Erikson in their general developmental theories. And this measure consists of 15 items scored on 5-point Likert scale, and it provides an overall result and 3 categories. The first factor was acceptance of one's life, and it means demonstrating and accepting attitude towards one's of life in the context of past and the present and positive life outcome. And the example item is looking back, I feel I have led a well-lived life. The second factor is connected with adaptation, which means adapting to changes typical of old age, such as decrease in physical strength, retirement, reduced income, and recognition of the need to use help of others if necessary. And the example item is I adapt my behavior and decisions to my state of health. And the third factor is acceptance of passing, which seems to be the most difficult developmental task. It means a reconciliation with the imminence of aging and the inevitability of death. both the one's own and loved ones. The example item is I have come to terms with the inevitability of death. And the construction process and psychometric properties are described previously in the article that you see on the right. This measure is short and valid and assesses these developmental aspects, crucial elements to adjustment to old age. And it seemed to be a first empirical adaptation of key elements of both Erik Erikson and Robert Heavyhurst theories in a Polish tool. Therefore, I think it adds original content to the body of empirical research. The tool can be used by researchers in empirical studies, also by professionals working with older clients in their practices in various areas of gerontology, like nursing homes, psychological education centers, senior clubs, health outpatient centers. But when we talk about healthy aging, we focus also on healthy lifestyle, not only adapting to developmental changes, but also engaging in health promoting forms of behavior that can facilitate successful aging by maintaining the psychological and physical fitness as long as possible, allowing seniors to remain in their homes environment, maintaining independence as long as possible. The second question is, should we create specific health-related behavior measurement tools for older adults? Well, when we compare older adults' physical health behavior activity, we see that older people present different levels of health practices than younger people. Older people are more extensively focused on medical treatment, also on attitudes to intellectual and mental health. And of course, it may comes from deteriorating health and specific tasks facing the individual during old age. And also health promotion goals are different in these age groups, focused more on well-being and functional ability. Also, we have in Poland the tool that measures health-related behavior in adults, but many studies were conducted using measurement tools that failed to take into consideration. Yes.
3 minutes. Sorry, 3 minutes.
Yes. Okay, I have a few more slides. Okay. So maybe I will do it as quick as I can. Now you see and hear everything is okay?
You have like 1 minute left.
1 minute, okay. 1 minute, all right. So health-related behavior questionnaire for seniors is the second measurement tool that I have developed, especially for older adults. So this tool measures activity undertaken to improve health in late life. And if you are interested, I have published previously the development and psychometric properties of this questionnaire. And the last questionnaire, which I think is important when we talk about successful aging, is attitudes to aging. And this questionnaire is originally developed by Laidlaw and their colleagues. And the Polish version I have developed with my colleagues is still in press, but this questionnaire enables to assess the attitudes to own aging process. Therefore, it seems as useful tool to see the gains and losses with aging. And in summarize, empirical research is needed using methods with high psychometric properties, reliable and accurate measurement, specifically designed for late life period. And these tools seem to fill the gap in measurement tools in Poland for Polish older adults in the aspects of healthy aging, and I hope they will be utilized to measure those aspects in scientific research and in practice also. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm sorry for not being in time.
So thank you once again, Magdalena. It was nice speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next one. Next presentation will be from University of Oslo, given by team of researchers from this university by Tanya Reider and Rudy Markwagen. Sorry for spelling this name. Test usage and quality awareness among Norwegian psychologists, the EFPA Test Use Survey 2020. It will be a video, yeah?
Hi everyone, my name is Cato Grønnerud. I'm an associate professor at the University of Oslo. So thank you for the opportunity to present this survey today, this study. I work at the Department of Psychology, where I do research on personality and psychological assessment. I'm a clinical specialist, a forensic psychiatric expert, and I'm also a member of the Board of Test Policies in the Norwegian Psychologists Association. So I'm going to present to you a study that we have called Test Attitudes and Practices in Norway, the EFPA 2020 Test Survey. So this is the Norwegian part of the EFPA survey that was administered in 2020. First of all, I would like to thank my co-authors, Mikael Semhovd and Rudi Myrvang, and also Tanya Ryder, who presented a similar presentation in Ljubljana last year at the ECP, the European Psychology Conference. The background for this survey, and perhaps also in particular the relevance for Norway in particular, is that most tests are translated from English.
Inadequately documented
There
language
are
translation
very
methods,
few that are
and lack of
developed in
psychometric
Norway
data
in
for a
Norwegian.
Norwegian population.
And previous
These
studies
practices show
have shown
non-compliance
from
with the International
2006 to
Test Commission's
2009,
guidelines for
surveys
translating
have
and adapting
demonstrated
tests
that
and guidelines for test
quality
use, the latter of
deficits
which was
are
adopted by the
rife,
Norwegian Psychological Association over
pertaining
20 years
to
ago.
breaking
The current
copyright
survey
law,
sought to
to
update our
how
knowledge
the
about these
methods are
aspects of the test field.
translated,
Further,
whether
we
norms
wanted
are
to determine
established at
which
all,
tests were
and
relatively most
generally
problematic in a
reliability and
Norwegian
validity
context, and that should
questions.
therefore be
So all
prioritized
this
for
amounts
improvement
to
initiatives.
non-compliance with the International Test Commission guidelines, both for test quality and for test user qualifications. So the purpose of this study was to map current test attitudes and practices and to identify tests with quality concerns.
Over 1,400
The methods
psychologists
were
of the nearly
as
5,000 that were
follows.
sent the
We had
survey
a target of
responded about their attitudes
4,915
and practices concerning
psychologists
test quality in
drawn
terms of
from the
copyright
member
law and
directorate of
psychometrics
the
in a
Norwegian
Norwegian
Psychologists
context.
Association.
They also
Of
reported on how
those,
often they use tests in general and about which
1,406
specific tests they
responded,
use with which frequency.
which is
Available
29%.
test
It's a
quality
fairly
data for the
good
most frequently used test was reviewed.
portion of
We were able to
those
compare some
who
of the
were
results from
contacted
the
who
current
actually
survey
replied.
to
But of
those from a
course,
similar survey administered in 2009.
we might assume that those that are most interested in testing were the ones that responded. The survey covered test quality, attitudes and practices, copyright norms, reliability, validity, how test quality is assured, and also tests that are used and their frequency. So we have now prepared a manuscript that we have submitted for publication, and this will be prepared also in a similar manner that a Norwegian study from 2009 was conducted. So the results. The total amount of the respondents that are using tests are 90%. So again, we might think that there is an inclination towards those that are interested in using tests that have responded to this survey. The proportion of respondents who use tests at least several times weekly or monthly has increased somewhat from 2009. It is now 85% in our sample, whereas it was 68% in the previous sample. So either we can say that it's encouraging, or we have an increased proportion of respondents who are interested in tests and testing. From this data, we cannot separate the two. So I would like to highlight just a few of these responses. We have more coming in the manuscript. And one of the questions regards whether the respondents feel that they get sufficient information on test quality. And we can see that there is a clear inclination towards not having sufficient information. So the average is 2.43, and you can see here from the graph from the 5 response options that the respondents had. So not sufficient. That means that there is probably not available, and at least the demands or the wishes from the professionals are not met in this area. How do you ensure that the tests you use are quality assured? And here we also have a comparison with the previous study from 2009. And there are 3 options here. Trust that the supplier has quality assured their products. And there you have a stable proportion of about 1/3. The second option, trust that my employer has quality assured the test used in my workplace. And there you have an increase from 20% last survey to 30% in this survey. And combined with the next one, personally check that the tests I use are quality assured. There you have a decline from 42% to 33%. So the last 2 combines means that the professionals are relying less on personal checks and relying more on their employers, that they are checking the quality. And from my knowledge of the Norwegian health system, the hospitals in particular, there is no quality assurance. So it's still up to the single professional to select their test. There are some guidelines available, but they are quite general and not very specific. And the employers themselves rarely have these clear quality assessments. They have recommendations, but they are not always aligned with quality assessments. The analysis of test quality information is also quite revealing here, because, and in this part I refer to Rieder's presentation from last year, and also some examinations and publications that she has been disseminating. And she identified 10 tests that are determined to be relatively problematic and hence prioritized for improvement initiatives. And she listed 4 different reasons for this problematic position. One is unauthorized tests. So there are no permissions for use in Norway. That means that the use of this test has to be stopped. There is lack of Norwegian norms for that particular test. There is inadequate reliability and validity data in general, but also for the Norwegian population. And there is inadequate translation methods or lack of such information. And what I would like to show you is also the table that
The tests highlighted in red print represent the
constructed.
10 tests or test systems
These are the
determined to have
40
the most
most
significant
used
quality deficits
tests
in a
in
Norwegian
our
context.
survey.
It is important to note
The
that the
ones
fact that a
in
test is not
red
highlighted in this list
are
does not mean that
problematic
all
tests
quality
for
parameters have been
various
met for
reasons,
that
but
test.
for the most
There are several
serious
quality
reasons
issues with other
only.
tests in the list
There
as
are
well.
issues
My
and
print
problems
article
also with the
describes
other
the
ones,
specific
but
deficits
even
in
if
each
we
of the
just look at
highlighted
the
tests
serious
or test
problems,
systems, but
there
in
are
brevity, I can mention
relatively
that all of these have
frequently
in common
used
problems
tests
related
that
to
have
Norwegian standardization,
problems.
reliability,
And
and
this is
validity.
quite
This may be a particular
illustrating
problem for
for the
countries with
whole
small language
situation,
populations,
at least
such
in
as Norway,
Norway,
where
and
proper
I
test
suspect
adaptation
also
is
elsewhere.
expensive relative to commercial returns.
So what to do about this? Should test quality requirements be enforced? Our respondents clearly seem to think so. They are inclined to answer in a confirmatory way to this question. The mean is 3.29. Then the question is who, or rather before that, the legal repercussions for misuse of testing, whether that should be in place. Our respondents are also very much in favor of that. There are no such repercussions in place in Norway today. This pertains to a general discussion that we had in Norway, and a colleague and I also had an essay about this in the journal for the Norwegian Psychologists Association, pointing out on the one hand that the ITC guidelines are not well known. The case is, though, that all Norwegian psychologists are bound by these ethical guidelines. That was decided by the association in 2000. Still, they are not very well known, and the other point is that there are no sanctions available if you break those norms. In the association, there is an ethical committee or body that can sanction you if you break the general Nordic ethical code for psychologists. But there is no such mandate for them to evaluate the ITC guidelines. So this is a problem. One thing that it's not known, the other, there are no sanctions available. Our respondents are not that inclined to think that the EFPA or the overarching European framework should be put in place. Now, this is about test user certification, so test user qualification, not about test quality in itself. But here the respondents are fairly divided and not very much in favor of that. So maybe then they are more in favor of a national system. Our respondents also clearly think that test use should be restricted to qualified psychologists on the first level. On the second level, they also think that at least test interpretations should be restricted. So they are a bit more inclined to think that others might use tests, but not do the final interpretations.
Results from this survey demonstrate that test use continues to be an integral part of psychologists' work methods. Relatively less concern with copyright law than psychometrics demonstrates the lack of understanding of how informal channels of access to tests affect quality in terms of inadequate translation methods and lack of psychometric test data,
The respondents
for example, in
have
technical
relatively
manuals
less
on which
concern
judgments
with
of test quality
copyright
may be
issues
based.
than with
Test
psychometrics.
developers
They
and
tend
test
to
users
favor
require more information about
psychometrics or
ITC's guidelines to understand
be
important principles
concerned
and
about psychometric
responsibilities
qualities
concerning
rather
test
than
development,
copyright issues.
adaptation, and use. This
They
analysis
ask
demonstrates
for
further
accessible,
that test
reliable,
quality
clear
information is
technical test
difficult to find
documentation,
and that there are many quality
and more
deficits in the
specifically
tests
and
used
more
in Norway,
generally
some
also
of which
ask
have been
for
known for
test
many years,
reviews,
but these
like
tests
test
nonetheless
quality
continue to be
reviews are
used.
needed.
These test practices are not in
In Norway,
accordance
we
with
still
ITC's
have
test
some work to do
guidelines.
when it comes to implementing
Norwegian
the
health
ITC
authorities
test
have placed
guidelines.
accountability for
They
responsible
are
test use
becoming
on
known. We
individual
have
test
implemented
users,
them at the
but at the same
University of
time,
Oslo. They are also in
necessary
the process
test
of doing
quality
that
data is
in
sorely
other
lacking.
psychology
However,
professional
as a result
studies.
of publication of this survey, which brought to light these
We are
challenges
also
in the
through the
test field,
Board
Norwegian
of Test
lawmakers and
Policies
health
trying
authorities
to
are now
engage
exploring how
the
test quality
lawmakers and
improvements
health
may be made in the health
authorities into
sector.
this area as well, both when it comes to assessment of test quality and also test user qualifications. So more details will be available in a publication. We have submitted the manuscript, and I trust that we will have this printed this year. Let's at least hope so. So you can find more details from the survey and the analysis in there. So that was it. Thank you so much for your attention. Please feel free to contact me if you have questions or comments. Thank you so much.
Maestro, thank you very much for your coverage. Next presentation will be from Vilnius University Institute of Psychology. Changes in attitudes of Lithuanian psychologists are receiving new horizons. The presenter, Dalia Nazvitiena, is with us. So,
yes.
Dalia.
Yes, yes. So Nigel, you are also welcome to help me to present the yes, yes, stay. So thank you for introducing me, and two of us are here, me and Gražina, Gražina, and the other one, Dalia. So we all three of us work in Vilnius University, but also we represent Lithuanian Psychological Association as well. And the content of my presentation will be, I think, in 18 slides, not so many, and not so much about data, yes, but to thinking what's about, what it is about. And Lithuanian Psychological Association is, you see that introduced very nice ideas. And my focus will be on these EFPA surveys, which we found very useful and thought-provoking for us. Yes, so the later slides will be on these. Very short numbers. Yes, we see. Yes, that's all. Yes. I took data from Arne Ever's publication, in which, so European means are from his publication. And these are ours and what we found. To be very frank, I expected for more changes. I don't know what about others, yes, because 10 years, very important period is quite a big time. But you see only dropping regulation on testing and knowledge also drop. So I would explain at least two reasons why it was expected more radical changes. Yes, look, these are our two samples. Yes, we see a bit more people, but drop of response rate. So Lithuanian Psychological Association expanded quite a lot. And then were people more young, now they were people older from 40 to 50 years. In Lithuania, women prevailed in psychological association and practitioners. Also, educational psychologists were more eager to answer the survey. And we see more, some move in fractions. So health psychologists appear and they represented some part of it. So these are not, how to say, not so much comparable results. So it could be different. But I also like to look from different perspectives on these numbers. And when I looked for University of Padova, I saw this anatomical theater. And some many centuries ago, they introduced this, and I suggest the bird's eye view. Yes, 3 slides about what our data mean for us from the perspective of Europe. Also, Arne Evers had another presentation, and we were among Lithuania and Belgium low scoring countries in appreciation of this. I need to say that medium is quite high, so low, don't think we don't appreciate. It's not so, but among all the countries, we were among the lowest. And also, we were very satisfied, Lithuanian psychologists were very satisfied with the education they get, along with Germany and Austria. And now both tendencies drop down. We appreciate not so much, and also we are less satisfied with our knowledge. So another review. We had the most specific test repertoire. It's his quotation. So I left and I like it. So very diverse and not very popular in any country, in other countries are our tests. So very simple repertoire, but the most top rated are perhaps known for everyone in this particular auditorium. But others are pictograms, for example, 7%, nevertheless, they use, not very familiar to other countries. And this is not standardized, but nevertheless is used in our country. So it's worrying tendency. And the last one, Arne summarizes that countries which score high on consent over incorrect test use, they argue for stricter regulation. That's very logical, and it should be, but not in our case in 21. In general, if to compare and to look into these scales, consent over incorrect test use, there are some 5, I think, or 8 items which name problems. So in Lithuania, we found examples of every instance: copyright violated and not proper interpretation of test results, all of these, but not, we are more liberal toward regulation. And the other view, it can be also the same anatomical theater if we look from inside, from our country context. And this is dramatically different. In 2009, I suggested the term romantic period, but Grażyna doesn't agree with me that it was a really romantic period. We had recently standardized tests, for example, Dexter intelligence scale, yes? Psychologists were freshly trained to work, yes, just to the start. Our committee was established and some studies, postgraduate studies were introduced, and many people vote for more active role of our association. And now it's a really different picture. We have many instances and requests about test use and abuse. As I don't know how in your countries, but in Lithuania, our committee is on a voluntary basis, and a lot of requests from parents, from teachers, from attorneys, from legal persons, yes, a huge spectrum, yes, and to answer them, to comment of them is really a hard job. And look what they ask, validity and test norms. They look like professionals for us. They, I think they read these guidelines more than many psychologists. But also we see some initiative for our parliament, and it organized unbelievable thing, some discussion on testing. And following this, under the auspices of our parliament, interinstitutional working group was created. It is no surprise perhaps for other countries, but for us to have interinstitutional group is a really big surprise. Our institutions are not very cooperative with each another. And we have many problems, I will say in another slide. And practitioners want more professional training, not courses particular, but training. So the last slide about this context, very different. So we don't have still publishing house and test registration procedure, no systematic standards. You see all the, you can read. And new tests come from European funds. What does it mean? That tests are allocated along according finance sources, not for target purposes. So I say about paradoxical situations. For example, when we need to identify special education needs, so it can be a problem because special education sometimes it concerns with healthcare, sometimes with education. Yes, it can be both. And these agencies, they don't cooperate with each another. I can say very anecdotal situation, people from universities who teach and standardize, they cannot acquire tests, only practitioners. So it's, there are really some, I think, interesting problems. But look, yesterday I introduced this yesterday at night. So Galileo Galilei, which was in this university he worked, and he was a father of measurement instruments, of course, in his own field, yes, about astronomy, yes, he taught geometric and astronomy for medical students here, yes. So it's very symbolic to thought on these numbers and instruments. And our presentation was about horizon. So what do we see in these horizons? Are we seeing at all? And there are four things. Presentation was about psychologists, yes, change, but from these data and context, societies, attitudes can change dramatically on psychological tests and practice. What we need to do, yes, to unify study curriculum programs for all the levels. You can call it 1 to 3, you can call like American school, but it's real need for this to do. How we interpret this less satisfaction with the knowledge, yes, people, practitioners, they know what they don't know. It's a good sign. Worse number, but it's better sign as we take it. And dissemination has a dual effect. We educate psychologists and test users, yes, but we also educate test takers. The best qualified requests are from attorneys. They really adhere to all the guidelines. Yes, when they quote, it's very difficult to defend why it was not kept. So thank you for your attention on attitudes of Lithuanian psychologists. And one more thing, I want to say, we welcome you to our university. We will be hosts after 2 years of European Conference on Developmental Psychology. And of course, instruments of assessment, this section or some symposium is welcome.
Thank you very much, Daria. Questions, thoughts about this insightful speech on Lithuanian testing culture problems and challenges? Actually,
just to clarify
yes.
the point of the, have I got this right? The new test can only go through a European Union project.
Yes, funding. Yes, new tests, and if to say this, I cover both standardization of some cattle intelligences and also creation of new original Lithuanian tests. For example, dyslexia identification or school maturity. Yes, how it is called in English. Yes, it's you cannot standardize from another country. You need to create by themselves. Yes, funding is only through this.
It's just that
it's not necessary, but it's usually use funding.
Right. So, but that doesn't stop a independent publisher from designing new tests. Is that would I be correct in?
Yes, you are correct. I would say from God's view, yes, but it's no practice.
Okay.
Why don't we don't know what stops? Of course, many initiatives. Someone should regulate and establish, but who? Who? And what agency? Not about person, but what?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we will have the last presentation from Catholic University of Croatia by Krunoslav Matesic. The fourth period of test development and testing practices in the Republic of Croatia. Kruno, can you hear us?
Hello to everyone. Do you hear me?
Yeah. Nice.
Like first, let me explain one mistake. My son, Krunoslav Matesic, is associate professor at Croatian Catholic University at Croatia, and I am senior Krunoslav Matesic. I was professor at Faculty of Humanistic and Social Sciences in Zagreb, and now I am delegate of Croatian Psychological Association in Board of Assessment in EFPA. So I am now from this position like speaker. It is difficult to understand perhaps, but the same name and same name in the same field. Also, I will speak about test development in Croatia. First translation of Binet-Simon intelligence scale for children was published in Zagreb in 1912. This marked the beginning of our first period of test and testing. In next year was translated several Binet-Simon adaptation, but the most important thing is establishing of counseling center for career choice in Zagreb. It's happened on 2nd January in 1932. With this act started practically applied psychology in the Republic of Croatia. In December, after the Second War, due to ideological reason, counseling center was forbidden. But in the year 1951 until 1952 or 1953, ex-Yugoslavia was under the pressure of International Labour Office to introduce again professional orientation. So it was organized employment services, and this period ended in 1991. After our independence, just a moment, what's happened on 15 January 1992 begin the fourth periods of test and testing in Croatia. We got Croatian Psychological Chamber, and here is a list of test publisher in Croatia. Is some different test publisher, and most important for our development of psychology is Act on Psychological Practices, which was according this we got Croatian Psychological Chamber. Croatian Psychological Chamber made some guidelines and some standards, and on the end we have in this last 30 years in Croatia a number of psychological tests which is very, very important, or tests which are on the world top list of most used tests, like Wechsler test or all form of Raven matrices, and so or Cattell culture free test, and so on. And also we have published now and some inventories, personality inventories and questionnaires like MMPI or like NeoFFE or personality assessment inventory or Beck's inventories or ASEBA, and so on and so on. Croatian Psychological Association translated some ITC guidelines, that means guidelines from International Test Commission to improve quality of test practice in Croatia. here is ITC statement of test use, and here is ITC statement guidelines for security of test and testing. Croatian Psychological Association was accepted in EFPA in the year 1998. So we have participated in all three surveys of the opinions of professional psychological instruments or professional psychological tools. And what was organized by now last was by a Board of Assessment. So it was published all for all, and it was particularly presented for different field of applied psychologists. In Croatia, gives now 6 departments for the study of psychology. In the most organization or most faculty, we have excellent psychometrician training, but you know, for this most difficult or most problematical or most difficult psychological tools, we need no aided training. So the aim for this training is to improve psychodiagnostic practice as the basis of applied psychology. It is all. Thank you very much. Did you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you, Bruno, for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you for accepting my presentation. Okay.
Ask the audience for a question.
Thanks
What's
of all.
remarks on the history
Bye-bye.
of testing in Croatia? Maybe we will have questions from the public. Okay. If not, thank you very much again for your
Thanks.
contribution.
Bye-bye.